We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more.
Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're taking a look at Ionet and the IO coin, which is coming up around April to May of 2024. So Q2 release for this. So let's get used to what does Ionet do, look at the infrastructure behind it, some of the very bullish points around this one, and just really wet the whistle around this Depin powerhouse. So if you do enjoy this one, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. More content coming and more from the Blocmates boys here on the likes of Ionet. So we're going to dive into quite a bit here. Grab a coffee, subscribe if you're new, we'll jump on in. So we'll start off with a quote here from Ahmad Shadid. He is the CEO and co-founder of Ionet. Ionet is essentially bringing together GPUs and providing a decentralized network. You could be on either side of the table here, supplying your GPU to a network, i.e. the supply side, providing compute, or on the demand side, actually wanting to use compute resources. Think of the insatiable demand for that right now with all these AI models, machine learning, etc. going on. It really is the new commodity of the future. So Ionet positions itself in the middle, and this is the quote that Ahmad's got. The money of the future will be backed by hard assets. Bitcoiners will definitely agree with that. And he says Ionet will be backed by the most valuable commodity in existence, compute power. So that is a very powerful statement. If you just take a moment to actually think about that, what he's saying is this is going to be such a massive revolution, what is going to happen with AI, that compute power is literally the new oil in essence. So here with Ionet, we have a picks and shovels play. They are able to aggregate these GPUs and then obviously service them to those who wish to use them. They call themselves the internet of GPUs. Now, this is a Depin play. So if you've heard the word Depin out there, Depin stands for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network, DEPIN. So what we can see here is you're bringing together in a decentralized manner those two parties we talked about, the supply and the demand of compute. Now, in terms of the market size and scope here, obviously you would have seen ChatGPT. You probably recently saw the text to film or text to video Sora release from OpenAI as well, and it probably blew your mind. Now think about all the compute resource required to run programs like this. It is ridiculous. So compute requirements for AI apps increasing by a 10x every 18 months. And you can see from this chart here, they quote 2-year doubling model from Moore's law here, but you can see it's gone off like a hockey stick as we're seeing demand from the likes of all the biggest tech companies. They just chuck in endless amounts of funds into AI. All your favorite applications probably have AI now built into them. Even basic note-taking apps like Notion have AI enabled. And this means what powers it, the compute power, needs to be obviously extracted somehow. And there just isn't enough GPU chips to actually go around. You're seeing that with NVIDIA, has like 80% market share in the chip manufacturing space, and their stock price is absolutely crazy. Now, this is the M2 money supply. And why have I shown you this? Top left-hand corner, 20,877. This is in billions. So almost $21 trillion is the total amount of US dollars in circulation right now. Most recently, Sam Altman of OpenAI requested somewhere between maybe $5 to $7 trillion to actually produce more chips. He is that hungry for more compute power. He's asking for effectively 1/3 of all the dollars in existence to provide more of them. So the maths equation here doesn't quite add up. And this is why we're going to see some phenomenal pricing of AI-based companies, and also why this is a 0 to 1 moment in terms of the market scope for a company that can provide the infrastructure network, that kind of infrastructure layer, a Depin powerhouse like Ionet. There is literally sky's the limit kind of territory. So a bit of news that just hit the headlines here a couple of days back, Solana-based Depin, Ionet hits $1 billion token valuation. So these guys have raised $30 million. An FDV, fully diluted valuation of $1 billion already. So you can see that kind of number itself is speaking volumes. and it's going to likely trade at a very high valuation straight out the gates. But I wouldn't let that put you off when this does come around, because I do think it's doing something that is very much needed in the world right now. And we haven't really seen many crypto businesses actually, span further than just crypto-based use cases. Whereas here we have compute resource, possibly the most valuable resource in the world, utilizing crypto rails for it to be distributed. So this is definitely big stuff. So IO Research announced on Tuesday it's raised 30 mil from Hack VC as lead, Multicoin, Six Man Ventures, Solana Ventures, OKX, Delphi, Sandbox, and a few others. It's also stated in here there's been 2 raises, one at 500 mil and then the second one at 1 bill. So this $30 million has been raised at those 2 different valuations, which is pretty cool to see as well. So this means that people are already up 2x on their investment in a way. There's no token unlocks for at least the first 1 year from the token generation event as well. So that's something to write down in your calendars as well. So in a very recent podcast here, Alex Pack, who is one of the managing partners at Hack VC, who led the round, they've been doing a lot of investing into this kind of GPU infrastructure plays in crypto space, and obviously centering themselves around AI because they can see what's going to happen here. AI is going to be phenomenally big. It is a seismic shift for everyone's lives. So let's listen to this quick clip and you can get an understanding of what the likes of Ionet are about to do.
Right now, the biggest problem in AI, like development and AI building, is like compute. And how do you get more GPUs? And then how do you like the inequity problem too, of how do you actually get GPUs to startups and founders and developers and hackers, which is where I think most of the main innovation in the last few decades has come from, right? So we started backing a lot of these like decentralized GPU networks. And I think these could be, these are like the next Ethereums in many ways, like ways for anybody around the world to offer, and Airbnb for GPUs, basically ways for anybody around the world to offer or start provisioning GPU resources. And I think more of those sort of networks will emerge over time. Once there's more models and once more of them become open source, we could see things like decentralized, like blockchain powered networks or marketplaces for AI models, for AI agents, and so forth. But compute is the very bottom of the stack, right? That's the most essential part.
So underneath what is happening with AI, the compute layer, the access to the GPUs, he's saying that is the fundamental basis from which we're building everything here. So this is why a project like Ionet is fundamentally very important for the future of AI. And essentially what it's doing is allowing for this decentralized network to be built, for people to utilize compute power or even supply compute power without KYC, without any strings attached, for a cheaper price than many of the competitors from centralized entities. It's got a lot of plus points going for it. So we'll take a little look through the website here. And one of the keywords to note here is clusters. Create your cluster, you can see on the left-hand side over here. What the heck is a decentralized cluster, you may ask? Well, if you think about it, if you've got, say, a large language model, maybe you've got a rival to ChatGPT, that kind of thing, and you want to run this thing, and it's going to take up a ton of compute power maybe to train, or even once it's up and running, there's going to be a huge amount of resource needed to run it. If you want to run something of that kind of size, you actually need your own data center pretty much to be able to run it. It's just so resource intensive. But with a cluster, what this essentially allows you to do is tap into the Ionet network of GPUs, select however many you need, what's your requirements, a kind of on-demand service, and then you can access those GPUs in one singular cluster. So it's the ability to use a cluster of GPUs in concert together to give you your overall power for whatever your AI model is. So this is going to be a key fundamental project for the next, like maybe 100,000, whatever it may be, AI models that come to the market. They're going to need to use something like Ionet. And there is no competition for this currently. You can't get these clusters. You'd have to use your own data center. It's not possible to do things in this decentralized manner as of yet. So they are a first mover advantage in this sector. You can also see there is cost savings associated with this as well. So maybe if you're using AWS, you're going to pivot to using something like Ionet once mainnet goes live. Furthermore, if you're on the supply side as well, now I've been thinking about this. We know that Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake. A lot of those miners that were doing the proof of work previously may have become idle. they can now be put to good use actually by utilizing their GPU power and enabling it on this network. So I think there's going to be a decent amount of supply that can be utilized and tapped into that's currently maybe not being utilized and underused. So you can just think of Ionet as aggregating all of this kind of hidden supply of GPU and compute resource. So here on the actual interface, so within there's a few different drop downs. You've got IO Cloud, the Explorer, and the Workers, but we're on the cloud. So this is where you can actually take out a contract, if you will, this kind of on-demand compute. As you can see, they are partnered with the likes of Filecoin and Render Network as well, but we want to use the Ionet GPUs here. So you click on Ionet as the supplier. You decide what tier you require for whatever you're doing. Maybe it's really resource intensive. You want to go ultra high speed. You're obviously going to pay more for this. You select your cluster processor. Do you want to use CPU or GPU? We're going to go GPU here. And then you name your cluster. It's going to give you a placeholder in there, but you can edit that if you wish. And then you come to the summary page. So for how long do you require to use this for this job? Is it on an hourly basis, daily, weekly, whatever it may be? You can figure things up. And then you come to the bottom and you would just click deploy. And then you would have your pricing structure, your total costs for said job. So here it's $1,675, just as a bit of an overview as how easy this is to actually utilize. So you can pay with, of course, crypto using the likes of Solana Pay, or you can pay with US dollars just using a card directly on here as well. So the interface that they've got nailed down is very clean indeed. So great UI. So we did hear Alex from Hack VC talk about the Uber, but for GPUs. Uber did initially make the cost of taxi rides very, very cheap indeed. And this is what you can see on screen here. Some of the price comparisons for the likes of Ionet here at the top. So if we're using them benchmarked against some of the current cloud offerings out there, you can see AWS down the bottom here. There's a good difference between the pricing structures and also what you're able to do. The actual outputs you're getting are also improved as well. So there's some clear cost advantages and performance advantages. And from listening to a lot of podcasts these guys have done, business development wise, they're going to have a lot of supply come to the market with them once the actual mainnet goes live. Plus, they've also got a ton of demand. They've got a lot of very interested clients who want to come and plug into their network and start running their AI models through them. So there's going to be a lot of demand for this. And this is going to mean a good economy and churn around the token, which is going to be called IO Coin. So this is from the Blockmates Meal Deal 2 Depin Research Report. This will be a paid for report at a later date, but we've churned out a few articles here, and this was by 563, head of research at Blockmates, going into the Depin sector, and this is just a small chunk of that overall article going into Ionet. So let's just read through some of the highlights I've pulled up here. So he starts off with, in 2022, China dropped more cash on GPUs than on oil, which is an incredible statement. And if you just think about the scope of what is happening here with this change societally and what it means for us, and you see the likes of China doing that, if alarm bells aren't ringing at this point, you probably need your head checked. So this goes on. In order to bridge the gap and distribute processing power more efficiently, Ionet is building a decentralized access to computing power for machine learning applications. So they've already partnered with Filecoin, Render, the big names in this industry already, but they have a lot more GPUs ready to go than these competitors, which are priced quite a lot higher than their current raise valuation. So at current, there is roughly around 25,000 GPUs on the network. I've heard that there is a further 180,000 ready to come online once the actual infrastructure is in place for mainnet. And their goal here is to have 1 million processors alive on the network. Now 563 goes on about the clusters here, and this is a real unique selling point. To be able to cluster all the compute power and use it as a single unit, this is going to be very necessary for applications such as machine learning with its high workloads. So this does set it out from the competition. And obviously if you were to use a ton of compute and you want to go to AWS, for example, you're going to have to complete KYC, maybe jump through some hoops. They're going to probably ask you, why the heck do you want to use all this compute resource? Well, with the decentralization ethos intact, no KYC required here on Ionet. You can see a bit of a visualization of a traditional GPU aggregator without clustering versus the clusters offered by Ionet. One thing to also add a bit of alpha in here as well. They've recently been summoned by the US governments They've had to speak at the White House, I believe, and they've had some form of consulate talk as well around the network they're building. So this is actually reaching the kind of upper echelons of the political spectrum. People are taking note at what Ionet is doing because this Depin network is obviously very, very valuable and powerful. So clearly the US doesn't want it to get into the wrong hands. They probably want to get their grubby mitts on this thing. So in terms of the aggregation of GPUs, so consumers, so if you've got a PS5, for example, laying around, maybe you've got some old PCs laying around, maybe you want to boot them up. And even if it is a low amount of compute that you can get from these things, you may want to actually add them to the Ionet network because you will be paid out in IO Coin once the coin is going live. And the payouts are very good indeed. They're actually a lot higher than actually mining a cryptocurrency would be. So I think you're going to see people flock to doing this. There's big cost savings as well, as you can see from this bit of price structuring here. For the actual end user, the consumer will pay 77% less, and also the supplier is going to get paid out more as well. So you can see it's both beneficial for supply and demand side here. This is the key aspect of having no middleman and having a decentralized network. Then in terms of the tokenomics, we don't know exactly how many tokens they're going to be. They haven't released all the data on it yet. Essentially, the token is going to be for payments. It's essentially going to be the commodity on this network. And it's also going to have a burn mint economic baked in as well. So it's called burn mint equilibrium. I'll just quickly explain what that is. But if you just think about you want to use compute on this network, you're going to be using the IO coin, even if you don't know about it. So if you come to a network on the previous page we just showed off with the kind of workflow, you can pay with your card. In the background though, they will convert your dollars from your card into the IO coin and use that. So the IO coin itself is used to pay for transactions on this network. So those who are supplying the compute power are being paid in IO coin. There is an emissions rate with IO coin, but per epoch, so that could be per 1 week. It's just a period of time is what epoch means. There will be a set amount of emissions and this will be fixed. So in any given period, what would happen? User comes in, they want to buy 100 grand's worth of compute power. They pay with US dollars. US dollars are taken in, buys up IO coin and burns it. Then the people who are actually carrying out the tasks on the network, maybe Tom down the road's got a few GPUs running. Well, his work combined with everyone else is kind of aggregated up and they're given a proportional amount of the emissions rewards each and every epoch, each and every week, whatever it may be. The more work they do, the bigger the payout they're going to get in that IO coin. However, what you can see here is if the total emissions of the network are actually lower than the demand coming in and thus the amount burned, it will become a deflationary token. So that is the kind of expectation with this. And this is the same model used by, I believe, Helium and Render Network as well. So just a bit of interest on that. And then when will the token launch? They're targeting between 2 and 3 weeks post the Bitcoin halving. Bitcoin halving suggested to go live around the 20th of April. So we're looking at the end of April, start of May. Now on screen, you can see the landscape for the AI coins. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 listed on here with plus $1 billion market cap. And so Ionet is likely to be slotting in there as well, right towards the top and a rightful place in my mind. If you're just trying to price things out, it is going to be very powerful tech. People are very, very, very interested in this thing. And so it will command a large price tag. And that won't put me off. I will be buying this, not financial advice, at the token generation event. I want to get my hands on the token. Just picture this. Last year alone, Amazon Web Services made over $90 billion. If they can undercut them and provide a better package to users, why would they not be raking in multiple billions each and every year? They've also got this cool thing in terms of their tokenomic structure. So their fee on the network is 5%, I believe it is. So 5% of the flow of funds comes to these guys. And what they actually do with that is actually just reinvest it all into new AI companies. And rather than give the AI companies money, they give them compute resource. So you can see the circular economy around their token. They receive their token, but they're using it to buy up more of their own computation. And that computation just given to their new investors. So that could be a very powerful flywheel and a real incentive for a lot of cool AI companies to come and build on top of Ionet's infrastructure. And thus this will create more demand for the underlying token, burn more of it. You can just see it will actually increase the value and scarcity over time. So if you don't want the AI overlords to rule the world in the centralized manner, maybe I can interest you in some decentralized coins and the likes of Ionet with its decentralized infrastructure here for GPU resource. Hope you enjoyed this one. See you in the next one. Peace.